Everybody knows that James and Kirk are the downstroke masters, but on today's video I'm going to show you guys 5 different Metallica riffs you can practice to become alternate picking kings. Well, hey there kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. Cross-picking is a technique that's used all the time by bluegrass players like Molly Tuttle, as well as shredders like Steve Morse and John Petrucci of Dream Theater. But to most players like us that are into rock and metal stuff, it's just kind of hard to know where to even get started. Fortunately for us, there's a handful of extremely well-known Metallica riffs that you can adapt to this technique. That way you can practice it and start making it a regular part of your playing today. As always, this video is brought to you guys by everybody who supports my channel over on the coolest place on the entire interweb, my Patreon page, patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. Sign up today. Even for just $1 a month, you're going to get downloadable tabs for this lesson, as well as a ton of bonus lessons, vlogs, backing tracks, and so much more. So don't delay, sign up today. Thanks. Gear-wise for today's video, I'm playing my lovely Suhr Modern T, which is just one of the most beautiful guitars that I've ever seen in my life. And I'm playing this guitar through the Ampliphonix and Gain amp by Amplified Nation, which I think is the most beautiful clean tone of any amp that I have ever heard in my life. This thing is seriously amazing. I'm running some delay and reverb plugins here in Logic, and that's it. If you're unfamiliar with the technique of cross-picking, let me use the intro of Nothing Else Matters here to demonstrate how it differs from the way that rock and metal guys like us usually arpeggiate parts. Okay, Nothing Else Matters, easiest riff in the world, right? E, G, B, E, B, G. Now, typical rock and metal players would play this by simply putting the pick going in the direction of the next string. So if the next string that you're going to is a higher string, use a downstroke. If the next string you're going to is a lower string, you would use an upstroke. So most players would play that riff like this. Down, 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 and then we're going to reverse directions and go up, up, up. Cross-picking, on the other hand, is down, up, repeat. And that's it. It doesn't matter if you're going higher or lower, what string you're coming from. It's just always going to be like this. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. The real advantage here is how groovy and rhythmic it is. Whenever you play a downstroke, it's on a downbeat. Whenever you play an upstroke, which is naturally kind of lighter sounding, it's on an upbeat. To get our feet wet with this technique, it's like to get our hands wet with this technique, but you know what I mean. Let's talk about the intro to The Day That Never Comes. This is a really great one to start with here because it only uses 3 strings and it's at a relatively safe tempo. Let's check it out. Three different chord shapes, all on the top 3 strings of the guitar. The first one here is an A minor. So from G to E, we're going to have 14, 13, and 12. So you're just going to play G, B, E, B, like that 2 times in a row. After this, bar the 12th fret on the top 3 strings and play the same picking pattern. This is like an E minor triad. Then we're going to go to this shape right here, 12, 15, and 14 on GBE. Think of this as being like G major 7. Same picking pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you go back to the starting shape, the A minor. You just loop those 4 chords like this. A minor, E minor, G major 7, A minor. Maybe on camera you can tell, but I'm trying to move the pick with kind of a key turning motion like this. That way the pick escapes from every upstroke and downstroke. That way you're always getting away from the string that you just played. Up next, let's talk about Fade to Black from the Ride the Lightning album. This does the same kind of 3-string arpeggio pattern that the last example did, only it's a little bit trickier because the pattern isn't simply going up and down. parts take place on the A, D, and G strings, and we're going to cross pick through them using straight up alternate picking, so down, up, repeat. Again, that is likely not how James and Kirk did it, but this is just a great way to practice this technique, so let's do it anyway. Okay, start off with what feels like a B power chord with the open G string, and we're going to play it like this. So that's A, D, G, D. After this, play A, D, and then move that A string up here to fret number 5 and play A, D. This is also a great finger independence exercise because that third finger just has to stay put this whole time. So you have, then play basically the same figure only with the open A instead of the second fret A, like this. Go back to the first figure. Then we're going to have this shape right here, which is a first inversion A major. So that was 4th A, 2nd D, 2nd G. And then I opened up the A string and played the 2nd fret D. So you have even if you're not into playing stuff like bluegrass where cross-picking is used all the time, it's really handy and effective to practice riffs like this with that cross-picking technique because it gets you used to changing strings on outside and inside changes. Now let's ramp up the difficulty by tackling the intro of Sanitarium off the Master of Puppets record. This is going to be a little bit more difficult because now we're going to be covering 4 strings worth of that picking pattern. Here's how it sounds. So we're going to have a little bit more range of motion going on there with the right hand in that picking pattern. So this one starts off feeling pretty similar to the last one there. You're going to have what feels like a B power chord held down on the A and D strings, only we're also going to be using the open E and G strings like this. Move that shape up a half step, up a whole step. All right, so now you have, and then we're going to change to this sort of major dyad shape here on the bottom 2 strings. 5th E, 4th A, and open D. These are going to be 3 string sets right here. So you're going to play, then just drop that shape down a whole step, then take it back up a whole step, and just play the first 2 notes. That way you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 notes. If you want to put the final kind of finishing touches on it, they kind of slide in and out of those major dyads there at the end. Check it out. One thing that I like about practicing this riff with this approach is that the picking hand has to be kind of free floating. It's totally okay to rest like a finger or 2 on the body if you feel like that gives you a little bit more stability or kind of a familiar sort of anchor point to play with. It's totally fine. Lots of players do that, so if that feels comfy for you, go for it. Number 4 on our list takes the difficulty up quite a bit by playing a pattern that uses 3 strings but in kind of an irregular pattern. And this is actually not a guitar riff. This is the bass figure that Jason plays at the start of My Friend of Misery off the Black album. Check it out. So the thing that makes this tricky is that there's a few groupings of 3 in here. Like at the start, we're using the open A, the 10th G, and the 12th D, right? The first grouping goes down, up, down. The next grouping is reversed and goes up, down, up. So you're playing the same thing twice, but with completely inverted picking. This is really, really challenging for me. Maybe it's not for you, but for me, Seriously, you just missed like 15 takes of that riff before you heard the one that you heard just a second ago. It's really challenging for me to play that. Okay, so you have that pattern twice. And then just play the first 2 notes. That way we end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 notes for that first sequence. And then we're going to play this descending figure. Okay, so you can see how the D string 12 is never changing here. The open A is never changing. The only thing that's moving around here is the G string. 14, 12, and then 10. Like that right there. So again, it's 3-note groupings, only now they're descending instead of ascending. That's what makes this riff especially a total body cross-picking workout. Okay, so the whole figure sounds like this. And then what we're going to do is to move that same idea down a scale note melodically. So we're going to have the 9th fret G, the 10th fret D. Same idea as before, A, G, D, A, G, D, A, G. And then what we're going to do is to leave that middle finger parked here on the 10th fret D. And we're going to move that G string around here from 12, 10, and 9, like this. Okay? So the second figure is going to sound like this right here. All together, you're going to have the first figure, and then the second figure. That pattern right there most closely resembles the stuff that you see in like high-level bluegrass playing, as well as the alternate picking chops of guys like John Petrucci, where you have these patterns that are like odd number groupings. They do that stuff all the time in those styles, where it's going to be down, up, down, up, down, up. It's this constant like reversal of the picking. It's the exact opposite of what metal dudes like to do. So our fifth and final riff here features us playing through 5-string arpeggios with alternate picking at a fairly brisk tempo, and then going through some little 4-string figures here for the second section. This is the first 2 segments of the Call of Cthulhu, Kitty Cat, whatever the f it's called. Let's start off here with this A minor 9 chord. I'm holding down the 7th fret D and the 5th fret G, and I'm going to alternate pick through the other strings like this. A, D, G, B, E, B, G, and then at this point, your last note of that measure is going to be the 7 here on the A. So you're going to move that 3rd finger up a string. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. After this, what we're going to do is to change the chord shape so it's like this. 6, 7, 5, open, open. And we're going to alternate pick through that like this. A, D, G, B, E, B, G, D. This is down and up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just remember, it's an 8-note pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After that, we go to this D minor section, which are 4-string arpeggios. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all going from D to G to B to E. Start off with like a D minor shape here. Open 2, 3, 1. Then you're going to move the G string up a half step. So it's open 3, 3, 1. Move the G string up again. So it's open 4, 3, 1. And then the last shape here changes. So it's open 5, 3, 5. I've seen people do a lot of different fingerings for these chords. Just use whatever works for you. Honestly, doesn't matter that much. So you have this. So one thing I forgot to mention earlier on in the video is especially patterns like this, where you've got to go from the high E string back to the D string. This is where that obsession that a lot of guitar players have with having the teeniest, tiniest little pick stroke imaginable can kind of screw you over. Because if you're going D, G, B, E, and you just did this little teeny tiny pick stroke on the high E string like this, well, next you got to be all the way back here again, right? To start the next pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't be afraid of big pick strokes. A big pick stroke is like an elevator that takes you to the next place that you need to be. See, if I do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm nowhere near where I need to be again. But if I do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I really exaggerate that last pick stroke, now I'm exactly where I need to be to play the next pattern. Watch my pick in hand here as I play those. So there you go, guys. 5 Metallica riffs that are going to turn you into a, I don't know, bluegrass champion, or maybe a prog metal master like John Petrucci. I don't know. Whatever you want to do with it, cross-picking is an extremely valuable technique that you can add into your repertoire and play some things that you just cannot do if you're a strict like economy picking or legato kind of player. And again, I think there's a real benefit to putting these examples in a musical context. Whenever you're just learning a new technique through playing exercises, the finish line is so abstract, right? You're supposed to practice this cross-picking exercise until you reach what, right? Like, is there a specific BPM you hit where the metronome spits out gold coins into your hands? Not really. The finish line is really abstract. But whenever you're playing a piece of music that uses a new technique, the finish line is in sight. Whenever you can play the song with a new technique, that's when you have it down, and that makes it a lot more attainable and honestly a lot more fun to do. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking this video, and subscribing to my channel. Be sure to ring the bell for notifications every time I upload a new slice of fried gold. And if you want to help support my channel and get access to bonus videos, downloadable tabs, all kinds of good stuff, be sure to support my channel over on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. Well, guys, it's been fun as always, but now it's time to get away from the internet device and go practice some guitar. Less clicking, more cross picking.